In this video, I'll be sharing what makes the top 1% of B2B SaaS startups, and I'll be covering this topic from my experience of generating mid 8 figures for B2B SaaS startups across 100 different niches. So many times, founders can't accept one thing that's stopping their progress tremendously. And this is that your product is never going to be perfect. Whether you take a 10K MRR early stage SaaS or you take a $1 billion sales force, neither of their products are perfect. However, Salesforce accepted that and are now making billions of dollars. The sooner you'll accept the fact that your product is always gonna need this one more feature and is just gonna be about to be ready, look, it's never gonna be fully ready. No matter if you're a pre-seed stage of funding or if you just done your IPO. That's the thing. And the sooner you'll start focusing on the things that do make you a top 1% fastest growing B2B SaaS company, the sooner you'll become one. And the first thing that makes top 1% of fastest growing B2B SaaS companies in terms of revenue and not in terms of number of features is that they put 90% of focus on demand generation. I've been fortunate to have a bunch of my students in the program be in the top 5 and 1% of this fastest growing startups. And in this video, I'm just sharing the patterns which I saw across every single one of them. And when you would meet the founder that's like adding 20, 40K MRR a month and is just growing quicker than many other people in his niche, he is putting so much focus on this, and that all of this happens for a reason. So for example, a bunch of books behind me and a lot of times on my channel I've been talking about this topic, that you do want to be putting 85% to 90% of all your energy into generating more sales and revenue, because if you do, then you'll suddenly have full pipeline all the time, and full pipeline allows you to do a lot more experiments in your business model, discover that you can be charging a lot higher prices for your SaaS without sacrificing close rate, and you'll just be signing more deals, allowing you to solve a lot of, an ocean of all other different problems, making it easier to fulfill on all other parts of operations in your business. So again, it's much harder to find an entrepreneur who terribly failed while putting 90% of their hours into getting more sales and improving their marketing. So that's the number one thing. Second is rapidly executing a wide variety of experiments. Let me explain. You may see that some startups, for example, they would hear that, oh, for my friend, LinkedIn outbound worked nicely. Let us just do LinkedIn outbound. And they book one meeting in 2 weeks, and then they live in this bubble thinking that they're doing okay, without understanding that their growth rate is so awful that their churn is gonna get their company bankrupt in less than a year. So you don't want to live in a false bubble that you created for yourself. And the way you avoid it is by surrounding yourself with other B2B SaaS founders who are adding 10, 15, 20K MRR every single month and who are hitting 1 million, 3 million ARR milestones within the first 2 years of business. Because I'm a strong believer in the idea that you're an average of 5 closest people to you. If you are surrounding yourself with people who are not adding 1K or 3K MRR a month, but are aiming for 10, 20, and 30, it's basically making it harder for you to fail. And not only they don't live in a bubble of, oh, something sort of worked, let us just blindly continue doing this for another 2 or 3 years before we even look at other things that could have worked like 100x better, is like the more you test, the more experiments you run, the more you can learn. There is no such thing that, oh, sending this message works universally across all markets and all niches. Otherwise, I would know it. With me booking thousands of calls from outbound, for instance. And the thing you need to understand is the more experiments you run at a given day, the more market feedback you're able to receive, and the more market information you have, the cheaper you make your customer acquisition cost. Because, in simple words, the more you understand what your customers want and what their pains are, and the deeper you're able to describe them, the easier it is for you to land customers. This makes it cheaper for you to land them, so you're growing faster. That's the whole concept. When I work with guys who are adding 10, 20k MRR a month, what is different about them is, for example, we discuss, let's run this one campaign and test these 3 angles. This gets done, if not by the evening, then evening of next day latest. And then sometimes I would see some other entrepreneurs who, for example, they sort of know that they need to do something, but they just keep delaying this for months and months, and then their runway shrinks. It's not surprising that the result is like that. So again, the more you run different experiments to understand what's happening across your customer group, the more you maximize your chances of winning and acquiring a ton of leads cheaply. And the third moment which I wanted to share here is selling what sells, with the generous remark. And the point behind it is the following, that so many people get into startups thinking that they must reinvent the wheel to make the first 1 or 3 million ARR. However, this is not the case. If you're looking for some IPO level or like legacy level type organizations, fine. Yes, for example, for you to build a unicorn, many times you indeed need to do something completely different, especially if you want to do it fast. If you just want to do it without a fast time frame, then it's fine to not be the first in the market. And the reason why I shared about this reinventing the wheel is you don't need to do it. And Google was not the first search engine, Facebook was not the first social network, and the list goes on. And that's why you can simply see what's working for other people who are in the same market as you, analyze, okay, what's working, what's not working for them, why this is happening, and you can put together the best practices, avoiding all the 3 to 5 years of learning that they had to go through in order to understand this. If I knew which channels I should be focusing on and at what effort 3 years ago, I would have saved like $500,000 by now, easy. In all those, not wrong, but in all those different marketing experiments and campaigns that I have gone for. That's why, instead of you trying to think that, oh, what's the completely new way of doing something, again, if we're talking about you getting your first 20 meetings a week on a consistent basis and you getting to your first 3 million ARR, you don't need this. Yes, sure, you want to have some competitive edge, especially when you get to book meetings with people and so on, but this is not a must-have. And what is another pattern of those top 1% founders that I have worked with to this date is neither of them was selling something that had little or unclear demand. They all have had industry experience. They knew that, okay, this thing is what sells, this is why this is happening, let me just make this better here and here and put this spin into my positioning in order for me to scale it. That has worked for them, and I have seen this work repeatedly. And then there is another thing which I wanted to bring up here. Let's call this marketing spent to MRR correlation graph. Fine. The idea is the following. You have investment in marketing and sales here, time frame here, and then you have MRR. Let me get the pencil real quick. So a lot of startups, what they do is first, 12 months, they focus just on their product, investing very little time in their marketing and sales. Then another 12 months, they start doing something, but as they are not following advice of someone who's done it and they're just playing around with things, they waste another 6 to 8 months here, usually dropping things a few weeks before they would have worked, and then they're not sure which channel they need to pursue, which go-to-market strategy they need to follow, etc. That leads them to have another, like this type of growth chart for another year. And then somewhere here, another 12 months, year 3, what often happens is, as they have not been able to break even this level, this is not satisfying to them or their investors. For some startups, it's even like 5 to 30K, sometimes 50K MRR rate. And for example, their projections were that by this time, they would have been like 3, 5, 10 times beyond this, which often demotivates them. And couple situations happen here. Either the investors kick them out, or they just give up because it turns out that it's just they were pursuing this to be not here, but here. And then there is another story, which I want to draw in this color then, which makes the top 1% B2B SaaS startups. They don't start here, they start here, and they go like this. And no wonder their MRR turns out to be millions of dollars in annual revenue within a couple of years, unlike people who are still sitting between 10 and 50K in year 5, year 7 over here, because they do invest in getting guidance from experts. They understand the importance of investing in marketing and sales. This allows them to quickly pass their validation points. And then as here the company is already profitable, self-sustaining, and they're not worrying about the fact that, oh, is it even worth doing or not, because this is just growing quickly every single month. They get all the essential hires that they need to place, all the A-star players, and this is what allows them to get here in half the time. End of story. I really don't want you to end up in this type of situation, dropping your startup and quitting it after a few years of blood, sweat, and tears. Spoiler, it doesn't need to be like this, because if you know what you're doing, if you are following the go-to-market strategy which makes sense and which is reasonable for your startup, and you are checking the boxes which I different color, which I outlined above here, you have extremely high chances to end up in this level here. In case you would like to maximize your chances of ending up here, feel free to apply to my coaching program, where my role is coaching startups in order for them to bypass all the mistakes I've done for them and that I have seen repeated numerous times by a lot of other founders in this space. So go to saascamp.com to learn more about that, and I appreciate you watching this video.